Welcome back to Dirty Pretty, the space where we own our feelings, honor our experience, share unfiltered truth, and talk shit, all through a lens of love. Today, I want to talk to you about recap, assessment, in 2025. It has been a wonderful first year of the Dirty Pretty podcast. And first and foremost, to everybody that has been listening and sharing or watching, however you're consuming this, thank you so much for investing your time and allowing me to spend time with you. This year has been a labor of love for sure. I shared with you early on that Dirty Pretty was something I conceptualized about 3 years ago. And so to have it come to life this year and to have so many opportunities to have well-rounded conversations looking at the juxtaposition of life with people who were willing to be transparent and raw and brave and honest and accountable with the Dirty Pretty of their lives. Thank you to every single guest that has joined us this year and those that have taught us about there is magic all around us. And magic is just unproven science that we have the opportunity to experience every single day of our life. Those that have shared with us that if we find ourselves cycling over and over again, that the common denominator that we owe it to ourselves to pay attention to with that cycling is us, is that we are the common denominator in the places where we feel we're losing traction or we feel uncomfortable in our lives. We are the key to answering what that discontent is, what that disruption is, and how we can get back to having a dynamic equilibrium with also a regulated, healthy center. So thank you to everybody that has joined us, and thank you to every single guest that has shared your wisdom raw, honestly, so that we can continue to have honest conversations, not only here in this space, but take it with us everywhere that we go in our lives. So the next thing I want to share with you is the assessment, as I said, the archetype assessment, that is the shadow archetype assessment that I launched last Monday, but couldn't come and have a conversation with you because I didn't have any voice to have the conversation with you. And a part of the archetype assessment is doing all the things that I just talked about Dirty Pretty represents, understanding that you're the common denominator and all the upset in your life. And you have a choice every single moment and every single engagement of every single day to choose how you're going to be accountable for your happiness and your joy. But where we get stuck in that cycling, where we get stuck in the idea that there is no miracle and there is no magic to life, and we're always going towards a very logical or rigid approach to life, we can get stuck. We can get stuck in that honesty. We can get stuck in the overwhelm of facing so much truth, not only about our accountability to the joy and happiness we have in life, but also how we're contributing to it. And this is what I created the archetype assessment for. For the last 10 years, I have been on an individuation journey with myself. And a part of that individuation journey involved a lot of confusion and a lot of projection and a lot of reactions and a lot of choices in my life that were not indicative of me. And when I got to the realization of I'm not present in my own life, I don't actually even know what makes me happy, it was very jarring and dysregulating. And as I said, for 10 years, I went on this journey trying to understand, why don't I know what makes me happy? Why am I such a people pleaser? How come I was so oblivious to all of this? And when I started to recognize that, something that happened to me was I started to shut down. I started to isolate in a way that I had never really seen or known myself to do before. And a lot of that isolation was actually really cathartic and really healing for me because I was burnt out. I was overextended in the way that I had been living my life up to that point. And I had been so inundated with it and so hooked into that pattern that I couldn't even see it. I couldn't even see that my discontent was because I was no longer aligned with myself. I had no idea what my values were. I had no idea why those values meant something to me and how they influenced my life, and not only influenced my life, but influenced my life in a way that allowed me to feel energized and happy and content. And so I went on that journey with myself, as I said, and really wasn't sure what I was going to find, but I knew that I was so unhappy with the way that things were that my mindset was like, it can't get any worse. So I went on this journey with myself, this individuation journey with myself, and through the help of many therapists, doulas, energy healers, coaches, I was fully supported during that period, but it's because I was so terrified that I didn't know who I was. I was so terrified that I felt lost. I was so terrified that I didn't know how to make decisions about my own life, and that is not how I know me. I didn't know me anymore. And when you feel that way, that level of dysregulation, that level of alienation from yourself, it can feel really dark and it can feel really lonely. What I've learned about facing my darkness is that there's a lot of light there. There's a lot of wisdom there. And so for the better part of the last 10 years, as I said, I've been going on this journey, but for the better part, I would say, of the last year and a half, I was really trying to think about how I could honor that, how I could honor really meeting a new side of my darkness, a new level of my depth, a new level of my courage and my tenacity and my unwillingness to accept mediocrity is really what I was doing, was trying to find my optimal way of being. And I really wanted to create something that I could give for free and something that I feel could pack a lot of punch. And so that's where the shadow work archetype assessment came from. With the help of my very good friend who is also on the Dirty Pretty podcast, Erin Nicole Porter, she helped me get everything that I had been experiencing. And I say everything loosely, right? It's really hard to get everything that you've been experiencing for the better part of your whole life and to a 1 year mind frame of here's all the things that I've been experiencing and working with. But suffice to say, she really did help me get a clear perspective of what it is I was trying to deliver and what it is I was trying to share in my experiences so that they could not only be more integrated for me by understanding what they were, but also make sense to you, because I wanted to offer a tool that I wish I had had when I was in the darkest, scariest, loneliest place of my life, and without any idea of what resource I needed. As I shared with you, I was so bolstered in my darkness, and I realize that not everybody has that opportunity, and it's really important for me to name that and to say that. And that's why, one of the reasons why I wanted to bring a free tool that I felt was really hearty and meaty to share with you. This is what I'm about now. And this is the experience that I have been given the blessing to have. And if it offers any sort of clarity for anybody else, then just let me give it to you. Please let me give it to you, the thing that I wish I had had, which is the recognition of there being gifts within our shadows, there being light within our darkness, there being positive within our negative. And it took me a long time to see that for myself. As I said, it was a really long journey. It was not linear. It was definitely forwards and backwards. You know, Paula Abdul, 2 steps forward, 10 steps back, 10 steps forward, 500 steps back. It just kept feeling like there was this never ending development of understanding me. And that's what I learned. That's when I saw within my darkness that my biggest obstacle and my biggest shadow that I was facing was that I was not allowing myself to be a dynamic human being. I was stuck in a rigid dynamic that was feeding me narratives of, if you're judgmental, you're a terrible person. If you're neurotic, nobody's going to love you. If you're cynical, people are going to think you're crazy. If you're a coward, no one's going to think that you're strong. No one's going to think that you have a backbone. If you're angry, people are going to think that that's a weakness. And I was living in this rigidity that had me doing this tug of war and jerk back and forth with myself of, I really want to love myself, but I'm so afraid that I can't because I'm not going to be perfect and I have all of these other aspects to me. And I just felt like I was in this back and forth with myself, getting whiplash over and over again of trying to figure out how to be fucking perfect. And that's when I saw it. All of this rigidity, all of this one way of being, all of this normalcy was suffocating me, and it was slowly killing me, and it almost did. And I don't say that for effect. I say that because that's how dark the darkness can get when you are at odds with it. When you make yourself feel like a terrible person because you have a human moment of something that you haven't yet figured out yet. You can take accountability for popping off and still be beautiful and wonderful and magical. And just because we haven't learned how to do it doesn't mean it isn't possible. And just because we come from a world that operates in rigidities, that likes consistency and definitions, doesn't mean that we don't need flexibility with that. You can be resolute and convicted while also flexible to learning new information and maybe changing that conviction in some way. This is what the archetype assessment does. It allows you to see where you are self-sabotaging, what you have the opportunity to learn from. Where, yes, maybe you are acting out of integrity, but using that as an opportunity to get your ass back into integrity. This is what the archetype assessment offers: a reframe, a perspective shift, which is the blessing of coaching. This is the blessing of coaching. The blessing of coaching, if I could say it was any one given thing, would be the opportunity to give your brain the chance to have a perspective shift, to have your being have a perspective shift, to have your heart and your feelings have a perspective shift. To me, that is the golden nugget of coaching, is the opportunity to say, this was working, but what works now? This was how you knew yourself or how you saw the world or what you thought was right, but what is right and how do you know yourself and how do you want to see your world now? I got so tired of feeling like I could only ever be half as happy as my love knew I was on my insides. My love being so vibrant and radiant and wanting to just encapsulate everyone and wrap them in it and say, your nuance, your difference, your conflict even with me is lovely. Because conflict doesn't have to have aggression. Conflict doesn't need to be adversarial. And this is what the archetype assessment offers you, is seeing the parts of you that are competing or juxtapositions or are in conflict with each other as highlighting something more important that you have the opportunity to learn about yourself. It could just be learning that conflict exists. This part of me doesn't agree with this part of me. And that can be all the clarity you need. These two things are hypocritical. And oh, by the way, humans are hypocrites. We just are. One minute I like this and the next minute I like that. One minute I want to do this and the next moment I want to do that. I said yes to this plan and now I don't want to do that anymore. I thought I wanted to be a project manager and now I'm a coach. The archetype assessment gives you the opportunity to be flexible and malleable. And it offers you the opportunity to walk towards the audacity to know what it means to live your style, to know what it means to take that neuroses that you have that makes you spin out and see that it is also the thing that makes you meticulous to the detail and makes you care about doing something to the best of your ability. Takes the opportunity to see how one shadow, such as a neuroses, feeds off of another shadow, such as cynicism, and how these things pile on top of each other, and then craft the vision that we see of ourselves, which, oh, by the way, is not a whole vision. There's so many aspects of you. And the archetype assessment is an opportunity to get to know it that way, to get to know yourself that way, to get to know all these aspects, these personality traits of you that way. The archetype assessment gives you the opportunity to feel empowered, to be dynamic, to be different, and to let it be okay, to let other people be different, to let that be interesting and exciting, and to let the fact that you have difference and they have difference be all the permission that you need to be as flexible as you are. So if you are looking to take this on with yourself, to understand, why do I get so down on myself? Why am I so mean to myself? Why don't I trust me? Why don't I honor my first initial instinct? The shadow archetype assessment is going to open that door for you, allow you to peer back behind and start you on that journey to self-assessment, to learn, how can I appreciate being all of me? How can I appreciate understanding what it means to live according to me? Like, what is such a Shannon thing to do? What is such a Emily thing to do? What is such a Brian thing to do? Oh, that's so Sarah of me. Oh, that's so Timmy of me. It allows us to have the opportunity to not only be excited about nuance in the world and nuance with people and nuance in education, society, and evolution, but also about ourselves. What fun thing can I figure out about me next? And how can I use that thing, whether it is appetizing or not, to my advantage? If you are interested in taking the shadow archetype assessment for yourself, go ahead to lifewithshannon.com, go ahead to my Instagram page on lifewithshannon.com. It is under archetype assessment. You can take it there. Or under my Instagram page, you can click the link in my bio, scroll down to the archetype assessment, and it'll take you right to the test as well. Either way, once you take the test, it is going to ask you to enter your email so that you can get your results. Following the results, you are going to be enrolled into a week-long archetype assessment journey. And I am going to be coming to you via email and video, talking through the things that we're going to be exploring each email that you receive. And from there, if you feel like you have learned something about yourself that has opened up your eyes to who you are, or to the life you want to lead, and you're looking for some support with that, get at me, book a coaching session, and we will work on continuing to unveil the essence of you, what it means to live your style. And last but not least, as I said, 2025 Dirty Pretty is coming back to you again next year. And I think I'm going to start it the same way that I started it this very first year, which is I'm looking to kick it off around Valentine's Day. So you'll expect Dirty Pretty coming back to you in 2025. Of course, I will always let you know when the official launch date is going to be. I'm feeling really good about Valentine's Day. But subscribe to my newsletter. I always have the hear it here first information, and I will definitely keep you in the know as well in my stories and as best as I can on all other social media aspects that you can access. Otherwise, thank you so much for kicking off the inaugural Dirty Pretty year with me. I'm humbled, I'm grateful, and I look forward to continue to being that way as we deepen our relationship, deepen our community here and on the other social aspect area touch points where we can access each other. Thank you so much for this year. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, if you know anybody that you feel would find Dirty Pretty beneficial for them, please share it with them. Otherwise, leave a review, like or subscribe. Be good to yourself for fuck's sake. Live honestly in the dirty pretty of your life and choose to do the next right thing for you. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Be good to yourself for fuck's sake. Talk to you next time.